days since I last went live, which is a long time, it would seem. But happy to be back doing a little Bible reading tonight. Actually have some energy, some sleep back from my work trip, which went quite long. So happy to be back. Let's go ahead and dive into some of God's Word together. I'll do a quick audio check here. My parallel stream. All right. Audio test. Audio test. Not too bad, but some of it. Something's making some bad noise. Audio test. Not too bad, but some of it. If I turn this off, is it just that that's too close to the mic, maybe? So it's getting feedback. Is it just that that's too close to the mic, maybe? Okay, got it. All right, so we got good audio there. Then 2 minutes. Yuck, too long. But we'll go ahead and dive in here. So rotate apps. We're going to start in Judges chapter 19. Mm-hmm. 19. Go. Judges, chapter 19. Oh. Okay. Judges, chapter 19. Now it came about in those days, when there was no king in Israel, that there was a certain Levite staying in a remote part of the hill country of Ephraim, who took a concubine for himself from Bethlehem in Judah. Content warning, this one gets pretty bad. Ugh. But his concubine played the harlot against him, and she went away from him to her father's house in Bethlehem in Judah. There was a period of 4 months, and was there for a period of 4 months. Then her husband arose, and went to her to speak tenderly to her, in order to bring her back, taking with him his servant and a pair of donkeys. So she brought him into her father's house, and when the girl's father saw him, he was glad to meet him. His father-in-law, the girl's father, detained him, and he remained with him 3 days. So they ate and drank and lodged there. Now on the 4th day they got up early in the morning, and he prepared to go. And the girl's father said to his son-in-law, "Sustain yourself with a piece of bread, and afterwards you may go." So both of them sat down and ate and drank together. And the girl's father said to the man, "Please be willing to spend the night, and let your heart be merry." Then the man arose to go, but his father-in-law urged him, so that he spent the night there again. On the 5th day he arose to go early in the morning, and the girl's father said, "Please sustain yourself, and wait until afternoon." So both of them ate. When the man arose to go with his concubine and servant, his father-in-law, the girl's father, said to him, "Behold now, the day has drawn to a close. Please spend the night. Lo, the day is coming to an end, and spend the night here, here that your heart may be merry. Then tomorrow you may arise early for your journey, so that you may go home. But the man was not willing to spend the night, so he arose and departed, and came to a place opposite Jebus, that is, Jerusalem. And there were with him a pair of saddled donkeys. His concubine also was with him. When they were near Jebus, the day was almost gone. And the servant said to his master, Please, come, and let us turn aside into the city of the Jebusites, and spend the night in it. However, his master said to him, We will not turn aside into the city of the foreigners, who are not the sons of Israel, but we will go on as far as Gibeah. He said to his servant, Come, let us approach one of these places, and we will spend the night in Gibeah or Ramah. So they passed along and went their way, and the sun set on them near Gibeah, which belongs to Benjamin. They turned aside there in order to enter and lodge in Gibeah. When they had entered, they sat down in the open square of the city, for no one took them into his house to spend the night. Then, behold, an old man was coming out of the field from his work at evening. Now the man was from the hill country of Ephraim, and he was staying in Gibeah. But the men of the place were Benjamites. And he lifted up his eyes and saw the travelers in the open square of the city. And the old man said, Where are you going, and where do you come from? He said to him, We are passing from Bethlehem in Judah, to the remote part of the hill country of Ephraim. For I am from there, and I went to Bethlehem in Judah. But I am now going to my house, and no man will take me into his house. Yet there is both straw and fodder for our donkeys, and also bread and wine for me, your maidservant, and the young man who is with your servants. There is no lack of anything. The old man said, Peace to you. Only let me take care of all your needs. However, do not go spend the night in the open square. He took him into his house, and gave the donkeys fodder, and they washed their feet, and they ate and drank. While they were celebrating, behold, the men of the city, certain worthless fellows, surrounded the house, pounding the door, and they spoke to the owner of the house, the old man, saying, Bring out the man who came into your house, that we may have relations with him. Then the man, the owner of the house, went out to them and said to them, No, my fellows, please do not act so wickedly. Since this man has come into my house, do not commit this act of folly. Here is my virgin daughter and his concubine. Please let me bring them out that you may ravish them and do to them whatever you wish, but do not commit such an act of folly against this man. But the men would not listen to him. So the man seized his concubine and brought her out to them. And they raped her and abused her all night until morning. Then let her go. At the approach of dawn, as the day began to dawn, the woman came and fell down at the doorway of the man's house where her master was, until full daylight. When her master arose in the morning and opened the doors of the house and went out to go on his way, behold, his concubine was lying at the doorway of the house, with her hands on the threshold. He said to her, Get up and let us go. But there was no answer. Then he placed her on the donkey. Then the man arose and went to his home. When he entered his house, he took a knife and laid hold of his concubine, and cut her in 12 pieces, limb by limb, and sent her throughout the territory of Israel. All who saw it said, Nothing like this has ever happened or has been seen from the day when the sons of Israel came up from the land of Egypt to this day. Consider it, take counsel, and speak up. Rough story. I don't like it one bit. Judges chapter 20. Then the sons of Israel, from Dan to Beersheba, including the land of Gilead, came out, and the congregation assembled as one man to the Lord at Mizpah. The chiefs of all the people, even all the tribes of Israel, took their stand in the assembly of the people of God, 400,000 foot soldiers who drew the sword. Now the sons of Benjamin heard that the sons of Israel had gone up to Mizpah, and the sons of Israel said, "Tell us, how did this wickedness take place?" So the Levite, the husband of the woman who was murdered, answered and said, "I came with my concubine to spend the night at Gibeah, which belongs to Benjamin. But the men of Gibeah arose against me and surrounded the house at night because of me. They intended to kill me. Instead, they ravished my concubine, so that she died. And I took hold of my concubine, and cut her in pieces, and sent her throughout the land of Israel's inheritance, for they have committed a lewd and disgraceful act in Israel. Behold, all of you sons of Israel, give your advice and counsel here." Then all the people arose as one man, saying, "Not one of us will go to his tent, nor will any of us return to his house. But now this is the thing which we will do to Gibeah. We will go up against it by lot, and we will take 10 men out of every 100 throughout the tribes of Israel, and 100 out of 1,000, and 1,000 out of 10,000, to supply food for the people, that when they come to Gibeah of Benjamin, they may punish them for all the disgraceful acts that they have committed in Israel." Thus the men of Israel were gathered against the city, united as one man. Then the tribes of Israel sent men through the entire tribe of Benjamin, saying, "What is this wickedness that has taken place among you? Now then, deliver up these men, the worthless fellows of Gibeah, that we may put them to death, and remove this wickedness from Israel." But the sons of Benjamin would not listen to the voice of their brothers, the sons of Israel. The sons of Benjamin gathered from the cities of Gibeah to go out to battle against the sons of Israel. From the cities on that day the sons of Benjamin were numbered 26,000 men who draw the sword, besides the inhabitants of Gibeah, who were numbered 700 choice men. Out of all these people, 700 choice men were left-handed. Each one could sling a stone at a hair and not miss. Then the men of Israel, beside Benjamin, were numbered 400,000 men who draw the sword. All these were men of war. Now the sons of Israel arose and went up to Bethel to inquire of God, and said, "Who shall go up first to battle against the sons of Benjamin?" And the men of Israel arrayed for battle against them at Gibeah. Then the sons of Benjamin came out of Gibeah and felled to the ground on that day 22,000 men of Israel. But the people, the men of Israel, encouraged themselves and arrayed for battle again in the place where they had arrayed themselves the first day. The sons of Israel went up and wept before the Lord until evening, and inquired of the Lord, saying, "Shall we again draw near for battle against the sons of my brother Benjamin?" And the Lord said, "Go up against him." Then the sons of Israel came against the sons of Benjamin the second day, and Benjamin went out against them from Gibeah the second day, and felled to the ground again 18,000 men of the sons of Israel. All these drew the sword. Then the sons of Israel and all the people went up and came to Bethel and wept. Thus they remained there before the Lord and fasted that day until evening. And they offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before the Lord. The sons of Israel inquired of the Lord, for the ark of the covenant of God was there in those days. And Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, Aaron's son, stood before it to minister in those days, saying, Shall I yet again go out to battle against the sons of my brother Benjamin, or shall I cease? And the Lord said, Go up, for tomorrow I will deliver them into your hand. So Israel set men in ambush around Gibeah. The sons of Israel went up against the sons of Benjamin on the third day, and arrayed themselves against Gibeah, as at other times. The sons of Benjamin went out against the people, and were drawn away from the city, and they began to strike and kill some of the people, as at other times, on the highways, one of which goes up to Bethel, and the other to Gibeah, and in the field, about 30 men of Israel. The sons of Benjamin said, They are struck down before us, as at the first. But the sons of Israel said, Let us flee, that we may draw them away from the city, to the highways. Then all the men of Israel arose from their place, and arrayed themselves at Baal Tamar. And the men of Israel in ambush broke out of their place, even out of Maareh-Geba. When 10,000 choice men from all Israel came against Gibeah, the battle became fierce. But Benjamin did not know that disaster was close to them. And the Lord struck Benjamin before Israel, so that the sons of Israel defeated 25,100 men of Benjamin that day, all who draw the sword. So the sons of Benjamin saw that they were defeated, when the men of Israel gave ground to Benjamin, because they relied on the men in ambush, whom they had set against Gibeah. The men in ambush hurried and rushed against Gibeah. The men in ambush also deployed and struck all the city with the edge of the sword. Now the appointed sign between the men of Israel and the men in ambush was that they would make a great cloud of smoke rise from the city. The men of Israel turned in the battle, and Benjamin began to strike and kill about 30 men of Israel, for they said, Surely they are defeated before us, as at the first. But when the cloud began to rise from the city in a column of smoke, Benjamin looked behind them, and behold, the whole city was going up in smoke to heaven. Then the men of Israel turned, and the men of Benjamin were terrified. Where was I? For they saw that disaster was close to them. Therefore they turned their backs before the men of Israel toward the direction of the wilderness, but the battle overtook them, while those who came out of the cities destroyed them in the midst of the city. They surrounded Benjamin, pursued them without rest, and trod them down around opposite Gibeah, toward the east. Thus 18,000 men of Benjamin fell. All these were valiant warriors. The rest turned and fled toward the wilderness of the rock of Rimmon. But they caught 5,000 of them on the highway and overtook them at Gaidam and killed 2,000 of them. So all of Benjamin who fell that day were 25,000 men who draw the sword. All these were valiant warriors. But 600 men turned and fled toward the wilderness to the rock of Rimmon, and they remained at the rock of Rimmon 4 months. The men of Israel then turned back against the sons of Benjamin and struck them down with the edge of the sword. But the entire city, with the cattle and all that they had, they also set on fire all the cities which they found.